Hi everybody, welcome to Glow with Grace. This is an interview today with our dear friend Alexandra Jaye Johnson, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Hi Alexandra.
Hi, Angela.
All the way up in Ojai in California, where our business is based. Um, so if anyone's not familiar with Alexandra yet, she is a wonderful person involved with so many amazing different projects. She is the chief goddess at entheos.com, which, just go there, entheos.com, and that's like a portal to all these incredible projects that Alexandra and her husband Brian get up to. There's things like Rock Your Goddess Life and Felicitations and the Academy for Optimal Living. And what else? You have something called the Oasis, which is kind of like Facebook for optimal living.
Yeah, perfect.
And you do virtual conferences on all kinds of topics, and you guys just rock it like non-stop. You're just always doing so much stuff. It's incredible. And Brian and Alexandra actually lived here for a while, where we live in Ecuador, and I'm always trying to get them to come back. But now we both have young children, so
Yeah.
not so easy. So yeah, thank you again for coming to join us.
Oh my gosh, I love talking with you. And I also love how you say my name. I'm like, ooh, that sounds beautiful. So thank you.
That's funny. So what we were wondering about sharing a bit today was we've both been new mamas for the last couple of years here now, and maybe sharing some guidance of the things that have really resonated for you as helpful in your first couple of years on this path. Because I feel like, you do YouTube videos, and every time I watch one of them, I just feel like there's so much good stuff in there, really, really helpful for anybody, but especially for new mamas. And I was like, hey, we gotta do a video. I wanna share this more. Your good ideas about this. So maybe tell us a little bit about your son, Emerson, when he arrived, and his birth, and how it was for you to begin your mothering journey.
Yeah, fantastic. So Emerson is 18 months, and he's amazing and awesome, and it just, as Angela and I were talking about a few minutes ago, it just gets better and better. And we had him at home. We had a midwife, Mary Jackson, who was part of Angela and Matt's virtual summit. What was it? Conscious
Parenting Summit.
Conscious Parenting Summit. So yeah, she's here in Ojai, and she was an angel. I love that woman, and I was hesitant to having people around for the birth, but as soon as I met her, I knew that I wanted her there, and she was such a loving presence, and yes, I love her. So it was just her. She had an assistant, and then Brian and I, and my labor was 17 hours. And then it was low key, just kind of, we were hiking and we were making food, and I would just stop and have contractions. It just slowly progressed.
Wow.
And then it got pretty intense, around 7 centimeters, and then 9.5 centimeters. I just was having more. That was the hardest part of labor for me for birth, was 9.5 to 10. Mm. And then once I got to 10, my water broke, and he came, I barely pushed. He came in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Literally birthing him was the easiest part of my whole process. Ring of fire, not a big deal. Every woman has their own different journey, but for me it was, after the birth, we have it on film, and, after it, I'm like, the birthing part was easy. That was so easy. Birthing him, it was just, it was easy. But yeah, it was amazing. And Brian caught him, and it was awesome. Amazing. One of my peak experiences. I loved being pregnant. I loved giving birth. I would probably have 20 children because I loved the experience that much. But as mothers know, it's a little bit different. Like the labor and the work of actually raising a child, I don't think I could handle 20.
Yeah, I think, wasn't it you who said something to me, a great quote that you'd heard from the real labor is begins after the labor or something.
Yes. Yeah, Rick Hansen and his wife was saying, there's all this talk about pregnancy and the birth and, the labor, and they're like, the labor, especially for the mom, is in, the year, the 2 years, the 3 years, and that's when moms really start to feel that mother's love, and that work that they start feeling like depleted. I mean, it's common for so many moms to you have the initial peak experience and all the hormones flowing through you and the initial birth experience, and then you're like, wow, this is work, and it's very easy for moms nowadays without the support to get depleted.
Right.
And it's work. It is definitely labor. There's no vacation.
Ever. Yeah. So yeah, your recent videos since becoming a mum, I just highly recommend them. If anyone hasn't been catching Alexandra's videos, check her out on YouTube. It's Alexandra Jaye Johnson on on YouTube, and there's so many things in there that I would love to kind of touch into. And I guess the first thing that comes to mind for me is you were talking about in one video being present for your own life, and then also witnessing your child's growing rather than kind of being in your head all the time and to-do lists and everything. And you talked especially about a practice that you have that's kind of like taking a photo. Could you share something about that with us?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's very interesting, and motherhood is just intense. I mean, the whole process that you and I have talked about is, I had all these fantasies about what being a mother was going to be. It was going to be amazing. People had challenges. I'm like, that's not going to be me. Yeah, I just had this vision of what it was going to be like, and amazing, and also not even close to what I thought it was going to be. So I think that there is this, it's intense and it's a process, and at the same time, there's so many things that we want to get done too, like you're saying, the to-do list. So as mothers, we're juggling so many things. We're taking care of ourselves, and we have our relationship with our partner and our children and the house, and it seems like there's always something to do. There's a lot of incompletions, and when we're with our kids, we can start thinking about, let's get this done, I need to get that done. And so for me, my practice is realizing, people say it to me all the time, it goes by so fast, and him being 18 months, I'm like, wow, it does go by fast. And I just come back to, in 15, 20 years, he's going to be like a grown man. And I remember that often, and I will look back, I know, and miss the moments where I was waking up to breastfeed. That I would miss the moments with his little hands and him wanting to touch me and wanting to be held. I can even feel emotional thinking about that, of he's not going to be this small forever. And that for me is my grounding practice, to come back to appreciation and gratitude and presence. When those times when I do feel tired and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to care for you right now. I'm freaking tired. I want to go on vacation and I want to sleep. So when I start feeling those moments where I'm crabby and just wow, I come back to that. I'm okay, this is the season of life that I'm in right now. I have a small child, and he needs my loving presence. So coming back to that, and as you said, the snapshot. So a lot of times when I'm holding him or just being with him, I'll take a moment to just tune into what's happening. I really let go of my thinking, and I focus on him. I look at his hands or whatever, and I just imagine taking a snapshot. I don't want to forget these moments. I don't want to miss these moments with him, because it's so it is so precious. And if we can let go of our thinking and we can let go of all the things that we need to get done and all of our fears and all of our fatigue, then we can actually be present for them. And I just like the vision of these little snapshots of all the moments that I just paused and I was with him and I was present and I didn't wish I was somewhere else, because that's been a process for me sometimes where I just, I kind of wish I was on vacation, or I wish that I didn't have a toddler that needed me to feed him and, that I could just have a break. I think that's also an important part of new motherhood too, is that as amazing as having kids is, you will have moments where you're like, I don't want to be doing this. I'd rather be doing something else. And that's perfectly normal, and we all have it. Well, maybe not everyone, but every mother that I talk to has that.
Yeah, I'm sure we've spoken about this before. Something that people said to us repeatedly when Araya was born was enjoy every moment. And yeah, just the feeling that that doesn't feel genuine, I don't know that every parent or any parent out there enjoys every moment. And I just felt like that was not a very helpful thing to say to new parents. To me, I was just kind of like, really? Did you enjoy every moment? I think there's such a tendency for people to look back with rose-tinted glasses because that helps our evolution, right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and there's the enjoying, and it is. I mean, I think that's a part of the process, and I think for me, it's embracing my humanity. And before Emerson, I had complete freedom. I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I mean, I could live in Ecuador. We could do this. We could do that. And you can still do a lot of those things with children, although it's a little bit more challenging, I think. But there's this, I totally lost my train of thought.
Mama brain.
Totally. I have a teething 18-month-old and we were up 5 times last night. What was I going to say? I think it was really good.
It'll come back.
Okay. What did you say? Enjoying?
Every moment.
Oh, embracing my humanity of some days I could do whatever I wanted to do. That's what I was saying. And now and I had energy and vitality, and some days I do wake up and I'm like, wow, I feel really tired. I feel tired. I just feel depleted. And in those moments for me, at first I, would beat myself up of oh, I shouldn't feel tired. Wanting to be this super mom. And for me, it's you know what? Okay, I'm tired today. And then I even communicated with Emerson sometimes. If I'm just tired, I'm you know what? Mommy's going to lay down. She's tired. We were up last night and I'm tired, because I want to demonstrate that for him too, that it's okay to not be on all the time. That's a beautiful demonstration for him of oh, wow, mommy's taking care of herself. I want to be a role model for him. And that's been challenging for me because I have perfectionist tendencies. Right. I don't want to do it perfectly, and I want to be, super mom. And it's tiring for me to be super mom. I don't want to be tired.
Yeah, and I think another part of the picture that we talk about a lot is the kind of the tribal reality, we could call it, versus the reality that most people live in these days, where they don't even necessarily have their own parents around to help with the grandchildren, let alone, an entire tribe of people. And the effect of that, maybe you could share a little bit about new motherhood, especially in terms of that, getting help in those first days and weeks.
Yeah, totally. And I think I didn't fully understand that until I had a child. Yeah. Everybody was get help, get support. And, I interviewed a whole bunch of people for an optimal parenting virtual conference, including Angela. And everybody was get support. And I was okay, we're fine. I'm strong. I have a husband. We got this. And we did get a doula, which I will forever be grateful for our doula. She's an angel, and I didn't know. I'm like, what do you do? Like, how does a doula support you? That woman, oh my gosh, I love her. Maya. If you live in Ojai, you got to hire Maya. But that was crucial to have the doula for me. Like, we don't have family here, so that was vital for me. And I do think there's this, like you said, the tribal and being willing to ask for support, I think is huge. Of willing to say, you know what? I don't want to do this all by myself. I need somebody to support, you know? And I think there's sometimes in our culture that you're weak, you know, that you should be able to do it all by yourself and be with your child night and day and take care of them 24/7. And if you don't, then you're weak and you're not a great mom.
And enjoy every moment.
And enjoy every moment. And for me, that's like granted, I know some moms will listen to that and they can think, oh yeah, that's what I did and it worked for me. And if it works for you, that's great. But if it doesn't work for you, and it didn't work for me, I realized I needed more support. So I asked for support. We had our doula, and then we have somebody coming over 2 days a week now, and she's been coming for a while, to give me space, whether it's to work or to create or sleep, but just to have that space for support for me. It has been vital to my sanity, because when I tried to do it all by myself all the time and be the wife and do our business and all of this, I just felt cranky. I was not my best self. And as I was saying earlier, that's not a demonstration to Emerson of like how I want him to go about life. Like, you need to sacrifice and you need to be crabby and you just need to suck it up and do things. I want to be the demonstration of like, what do I want and how do I create that? And him seeing, oh wow, when my mom wants this, and she's creating the support around her. That means that she's strong, not weak.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question, but
I think so. Something else that comes to mind for me is self-care for new mothers as well. You know, it's this period of just giving. And, you know, where do you kind of draw the line? Where's the balance with filling up your own cup and, you know, making sure that you feel taken care of so that you can kind of give and give? How have you managed that, aside from the, you know, asking for help like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, which we call, my husband and I in our community, we call things that help you fill up blissciplines.
Yeah.
So for me, it was getting really clear about what my blissciplines were. What were the things that when I did them most consistently helped me feel filled up, and it's where is the evidence? Like, how am I showing up for Emerson when I do these things? Am I more loving? Am I more spacious? You know? So for me, I got clear that it was meditation, exercise. I had to do these every day. Meditation, exercise, eat a nutrient-dense diet, and make sure that I'm getting my rest. Those were like my cornerstone, and I think they're different for every person, but that, when I did those things consistently and I asked Brian to help or I had somebody else support me, that I felt resourced. So that was huge for me, and making those a top priority.
Right.
That if I had somebody coming over or somebody to help, or I asked Brian for an hour of support or whatever it is, in that time I didn't go check email. Right. I didn't do, you know, I didn't research things. I didn't do anything else other than what I knew would help me stay well nourished and hydrated in the self-care way. So that for me was like having that discipline to say, okay, these, I know when I do them, and I've got to do that. When I have this hour, I can't be doing stuff that doesn't matter, watching TV, whatever it is. We don't watch TV, but, you know, just having that clarity.
Yeah, I felt that so strongly as well in those first weeks and months of parenthood. There's just no room whatsoever for procrastination. It's just like, no more procrastination ever. It's like there's such tiny windows, it felt like, where I could do the things that I really wanted to do.
Mm.
And yeah, those kind of non-negotiable things that you're speaking of, the disciplines, yeah, it just feels like it's so crucial to slot those in at every opportunity that you can, because the windows are so small. And it's, I think probably a lot of people watching this are already parents, so they kind of know what we're talking about. But I sometimes wish there was a way to like really get people to understand who aren't parents yet, like what it's really like. Because I just feel like people really don't get it. What it's
That's
like.
really funny. I was going to tell a story, which is so great. There's this guy that we see hiking, right? And he's super sweet and awesome. And him and his wife got pregnant, and they were like weeks before. And then we saw him, and I was like, oh, it's so exciting. I'm like, do you have support? The typical pat, like, do you have support? And he's like, no, my wife and I want to do it by ourselves and whatever. And I was like, awesome. I highly recommend you get support. I mean, just being on the other end, like, get support. We have an amazing doula. Get support. And he's like, no, we're just gonna do it. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then literally a week after his baby was born, we saw him out, and he was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to get in touch with you guys. Like, we haven't slept in a week. What was the name of that doula? Like, we need support. And I was like, welcome to the club called parenthood. Like, it's just, you can't, if people would have said that to me, and they did say it to me, and I did get the support, but there's like this naivete that I think, like you said, evolutionary, like, you're all in. You're having this baby, so there's no, like, I don't know. I think there's something that happens where you don't want to hear intensity or the negativity around it. Like, I'm not listening to that just because you have to, I don't know. But yeah, people just aren't that excited about hearing how intense it is, and then afterwards they're like, I totally know what you were saying.
There was a message that somebody sent to us after I was born. It was really hilarious. It was kind of like, welcome to parenthood. Here are kind of the things that you're going to experience now. And one of them was something like, you will come to loathe anybody who is not a parent and claims that they are so busy. And we were like, oh, really? And then, okay, now we understand,
Oh my God. I mean, it's like crazy, right? I mean, I say this to Brian often, like, the hell did we do with our time before we became a parent? I mean, like, really?
Yeah.
I could have been like, I mean, it's nuts. Like, the whole time paradigm thing that happens. Yeah, I love that. And people are like, oh, and I have a dog. It's like my kid. And I was like, I have a dog too, and it is nothing like having a kid. Your dog's not waking you up 20 times at night. Your dog, I mean, no, it's not the same. And if you, I mean, I'm not saying it like non-parents aren't cool, but it's a very different, like, our doula once said to us, like, one of our friends, we asked him if he would go to Whole Foods and get us a whole bunch of food, like literally tons of food. And he was like, are you serious? Like, you want me to get all of that? And we're like, yeah, we're serious. This was in the first 2 weeks or something. And he was like, okay, I'll do it. But he just didn't get it, of like how much somebody bringing food or making or supporting a new family. And our doula said, there's two types of people. There's two kind of camps. There's the people who are parents and the people who aren't parents. But the people who aren't parents don't realize there's two camps. Like, they have no idea of what it means to be a parent. Like, they can't comprehend because they haven't done it. And that is definitely true. And I used to be in that camp of not a parent, and I had lots of opinions about people and how they parented and whatever. And now I'm like, I completely get why everybody does what they do. Like, everybody has to find their own path to parenting and their own way of doing it. And it's not an easy challenge. And a lot of times it's fun, and a lot of times it's not fun.
I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, you mentioned having 20 children earlier, and that's probably not going to happen. But do you feel like you'll probably have any more after this?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this. I mean, I feel like we're gonna have three. That's kind of where I feel. And I think maybe if we would have started earlier, you know, I'm almost 35. If we would have started earlier, I think I would have had more.
Oh,
Because you know, it's changed me in, like, I mean, literally changed my life. Like, more changed my life just in general, but then also just changed my creativity. And, you know, I do feel called to learn about child development. And, you know, we've talked about unschooling and all of these things. Like, my having him has changed my destiny of how I will use my time. And I wasn't anticipating that, although I knew we were going to do the unschooling, but I didn't realize how much of my time would go to my children.
right.
And it feels very dharmic and very purposeful, and that it's just part of my life's path to be. I get passionate about things, and I'm just passionate about parenting and children and school and all these things. So, yeah, I think we will have three, to answer your question. And there's moments. I mean, there's moments in the first couple months that I was like, I'm not having another child. Like, why would anybody have another child? Like, this is so freaking hard, and I'm tired, and this is nuts. Yeah. But as I see, and I think all parents have those moments, you know, of like they're screaming baby, or just you have no time for yourself, and you're just like, what? Everybody says that having kids is great. This is crazy. But now that it's progressed, and I see how awesome it is, and I see Emerson, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's going to be a little human being. I'm like, I want to have like tons of these little guys, these little people. And it's just so fun to watch him grow and see the world through his eyes, and realize how much I'm going to learn and grow as a human being just through his discovery. And that lights me up. Like, I get so excited about the things that we'll do. And yeah, he is going to make my life, and has made my life, so much better and so much richer and so much more. Has caused me in many ways of getting clear about what's really important to me, and then am I investing in those things that are important? Because, as you said, time is a factor. Like, am I doing what I feel like I'm here to do? Am I giving my gifts in the way that I want to give them? And he is definitely inspiring me to get laser clear on that, which is fun.
You just reminded me of something else that you guys shared with me once that has kind of stuck with me. I believe it was your husband Brian was talking about a lot of people kind of give their biggest gifts to the world in their like 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. And I find that very reassuring as well in terms of motherhood, because we both come from places where, like you were saying, we could just kind of do what we want when we want, and then suddenly there's a child and it's like, wow, I couldn't, you know, write a book even if I wanted to, you know. It's like, you know, my energy is going into this creative project of being with this little person right now. And, you know, maybe that becomes the biggest gift that you give to the world, is nurturing that little person or little people. But then maybe there's also something more to come, kind of like further down the line, that has so much more kind of experience and grit and reality behind it than something that you could have offered in your 20s and 30s.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Totally. And I think for me, there's the constant reminder, because I think as women and just parents in general, like we do want to create, you know, and I come from, before having him, like a super creative, and we have a business, and just creativity is one of my strengths and one of my passions. Like, I just love to create things. So what helps me, because there's moments where I'm like, I don't have the time to create what I'd want to create. And I remind myself often of like, I am in the season of motherhood. I am in the season of mothering Emerson and then our future children. And there's sometimes where I'm like, wow, that's a lot of mundane family stuff of not creating. But for me, the practice is, how do I bring my attention to my children in a way that I look at it as a spiritual practice. Like, how do I bring that focus, that attention, that love, and what I'm doing with my children is helping me be a better human being. And therefore, like, I love what you said, is grit. Because I think as mothers, we are like learning grit. I mean, we are showing up every single day and caring for our children, you know, and I don't think mothers are celebrated enough in our culture. Like, the work that women are doing day in and day out. And it's like, do you work? And a mom's like, no, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, what? Yes, you work. And you work harder than people that go to jobs oftentimes. And it's a 24/7 thing. So I think, yeah, you're learning so many skills that as you get into the season of early motherhood. I mean, for me, I'm like, I have learned so much in 18 months. When I'm 40, 50, 60, I'm going to be a rock star with all of these skills that parenting is helping me develop. Like, I get excited, you know, and I remind myself there's going to be plenty of time to create. There's going to be, God willing, I have plenty of time, but to focus on that energy. And for me, it helps just to not, it helps me be present, focus on the season that I'm in right now, and to get excited about it and know that the snapshot again, that it goes by fast. And I don't want to look back. I've had some women, and one woman in particular was like, you know, I have grown children and I feel like I missed it. Like, I was so busy with my career and, you know, and whatever. And I feel like I missed those moments with my kids, you know, and I feel it in my heart. I'm like, I personally do not want to have my career and my creativity impact that when I'm 60, 70. I'm like, you know, I really wish I would have spent more time with my kids. Like, I can honestly say I feel like I'm in integrity I'm giving it my all right now.
Yeah. Beautiful. So something else from your recent videos that comes to mind there is this thing about bringing more play and more fun and more joy into the mundane, into the everyday, and not kind of feeling like, okay, I've got to get through the whole to-do list and then I can have fun. I loved that whole thing that you're talking about. Do you want to kind of expand on that a bit for us?
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, I'll start off with saying, you know, there's, what is it called? Virtues in Action, the Strengths Tests by Martin Seligman. I forget. I know it's Strengths in Action, but Martin Seligman, if you search for that. But anyways, there's a strengths test. If you figure out what your strengths are. So I'll start off with, one of my strengths is playfulness. Like, that's one of my strengths. So when you use your strengths often, the idea is that you're happier. So for me, and I think we can all use more play in our life, I do think that for most of us, we are play deficient. And there's this idea that, you know, you got to work really hard and then you can play, but you can't have fun working and you can't have fun just checking off your to-do list. So a big part of my process and my practice is, okay, questioning it. Like, really, can I not have fun doing my to-do list? Can I not have fun making food? Can I not have fun helping my child put his clothes on? Like, yeah. So I'm constantly thinking about how I can add more play, you know, because there's the dishes, there's things that pile up, and, you know, there's the laundry, and I think a lot of us have conditioning, and I don't think most of our parents were like, yeah, let's do the laundry, you know. It was like, I don't want to do the laundry. Why don't you do it? It's your new chore, you know? So we all have this idea of chores and things that you have to do and before you can go outside and play. So we have a lot of fun at our house. We have dance parties often. You know, we have Emerson help put the dishes away, and he loves it. I mean, we vacuum and we dance and we sing, and, you know, the laundry, we let Emerson throw it around, and then we have him help put it away. I mean, there's just a lot of little things that I think you can do, and I think the biggest thing is it's an attitude. Like, you have to have the mindset or be committed to practicing the attitude and the mindset of play and noticing your habitual ways of doing things and then asking, okay, this is how I normally do it. Is this how I want to do it?
Yeah.
And how can I actually add more play and fun to it? Because when we start asking those questions, we're like, oh, yeah, I could turn some music on. Oh, yeah, I can shake my booty right now. You know, like, we just have these ideas of how we think it should go. And it's all like organized, and it doesn't, nobody says that that's how it needs to be.
Right. Yeah, I love that it's a choice, and recognizing that. I've been looking at that more and more myself since you did your video on this, and just noticing, like, you know, I'll be talking to somebody about something and it's like my voice is a certain way and the energy behind it is a certain way, and it's like, why that? Like, why is it like that? Is it, and that, it just feels like it's so much to do with conditioning and the patterns that I grew up around. And it's like, you know, if I'm talking about this kind of subject, then, you know, my voice is going to be like this, and it's going to, and it's like, well, why? You know, like, it's really interesting to pay attention to that kind of thing. And yeah, as you said, to, you know, create this new kind of reality with your family of like, actually, you know, we're going to do it like this, and this is going to be really fun. Because why not? And then, you know, part of what I find so exciting about parenting is like, what's going to come out of this from bringing up children in a different way like this, where, you know, this is just one example, like, where the laundry becomes something that's really fun, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. You know, Emerson has no idea that putting the dishes away is not fun. Like, literally, we open up the dishwasher and he's like running to the dishwasher. Like, it's like fun for him, you know? I'm like, do you want to empty the dishwasher? And he's like, yeah! I mean, it's just, I'm like, we did not have that experience. Like, people weren't jumping up and down, like, let's empty the dishwasher. So it is really fun. And I think that, as you were just talking to of the voices, I totally had the same thing. I'm like, why am I doing that? Like, there's like something that comes over us, like these masks that we put on of like, oh, I gotta be serious, I gotta be, and it's amazing to just start peeling those off and saying, okay, I don't need to have that voice. And I think as we were talking about the intensity of new parenthood, right? Like, it is challenging, it is intense, and I think to ignore that is ignoring reality. But I will also say one of the things that really helped and has helped me is to have a sense of humor and to realize that everything is a phase. Everything. You know, it's like you're waking up. I know that there's a lot of stress around sleep for parents, and I get it. I have an 18-month-old and we don't sleep through the night, but I think one of the things that has helped me is to have that mindset of like, it's not that big of a deal. How do I bring a sense of humor to it? And before I know it, it's going to be past. Like, it's not, I mean, one of our thing is NBD, no big deal. Well, it's like, okay, NBD, not a big deal. Let's not stress about it. So I think that's a lot of parent stress too, is like you want to do it right and you get really serious on it.
Yeah.
And I try to have a sense of humor about all of it. I'm like, yeah, my son's screaming at me. Okay, like, this is all part of it. He's a toddler. Like, it doesn't mean I'm a crappy mom.
Right. Yeah. Another area that I'd love to talk with you a bit about is the importance of nurturing the couple relationship when a new child comes along. I mean, obviously not everybody is even in a couple relationship,
Right.
and I have no idea how single mothers do it. Single fathers are unbelievable. The things that people get through. But let's say for the sake of this conversation that people are in a couple and then a new baby comes along, that can be really challenging for the relationship. So what kind of things have you found to be helpful with that area?
Yeah, I think this is such a great topic because there's so much research on, I mean, divorce after having children, and it's almost like predictable if after so many years. I don't know if it's a 3 or 7. I can't remember the statistic, but it's very common for people to have, after years of having children, get divorced. Like the resentment, all of that building up, and like just not making it. So I think it's a really important topic. And, I think the biggest thing is you can't always do this because sometimes you just get pregnant and, you're not planning for the child. But I think the biggest thing before you have your child is to really get a healthy foundation, an amazing communication system in place with you and your partner. Like, it's vital. I mean, there's no way that Brian and I would have navigated it as well as we did without that, like, rock solid foundation of, like, we can talk about things, we can communicate, we trust each other, we love each other. So I think that's most important at the beginning. And then I think one of the biggest things for couples and it was part of my practice is, when you're tired, you start to notice, you're not using your whole brain. You are using your limbic brain and your fear-based brain. And in that state, when you're looking through the world through that state, you tend to notice things that are not working, or, you start noticing the negative things. And it's really easy when you're tired to criticize. To criticize and to complain and, feel like you're doing all the work and all that. So for me, the big practice was, and for us, was really filling up on appreciation, like every day. Okay, great, we're both tired. Like this, I appreciate you did this for me. I appreciate you did this for me. And focusing on what you appreciate about the person and what they're doing for you and how they're an amazing father or amazing partner, that is vital. Like, you need to have more appreciations than criticisms. So I think that is super huge. John Gottman did the research, that a couple, in order to make it, you need to have 5 to 1. 5 appreciations to 1 criticism. So I think when a new baby comes along, there's a lot more criticisms and, just irritation. So really navigating that and being conscious about it, of appreciating your partner. And for me, we've had an appreciation practice for years, but I know at the beginning when we first had Emerson, and I've talked to a lot of moms too, like there was like resentment for me. Like my life changed drastically, and I was breastfeeding, it seemed like all day, and he had more freedom, and his life didn't seem like it changed as much as mine did. And there, for me, I definitely had, I was like, your life, like, it didn't change, and mine, I'm breastfeeding. And I think it's common for moms to have that, especially if you're breastfeeding and you're the main caretaker, that you don't have the freedom that you once had. So I think acknowledging that you have resentment, for me, I would say, I'm feeling resentful to you. Like, I know it's nothing to do with you, but I just need to get it out because I don't want to direct it to you, and I don't want to end up having a fight later because I didn't share that I was having this resentment. So that was really helpful. And also getting really clear, like, okay, I'm resentful. What do I want? The resentment means that I'm not getting something that I want. Let me get clear about what my desire is, and then I can talk to him about it, and we can figure out how I can get my desires and my needs met, and being willing to be strong enough and say, I'm not getting what I want, and this is what I want, and how do I create it? So that can show up in many different ways, but
nice. Yeah, beautiful. I read an article recently around this theme as well that I found really interesting. It was some new research. It was about the fact that not all work in the home is equal, pretty much.
Mm.
So, childcare is not the same thing as doing the dishes. You know,
Mhm.
an hour of childcare is nothing like an hour of sweeping the floor or something. And so this research was about how all of those resentments can accumulate so much in marriages and relationships where there's young children,
Mm.
because the childcare might be seen more as like the woman's thing. And so even if the guy is helping out with, you know, the dishes or whatever, and he's not helping out that much with the childcare,
Mhm.
it's almost like, who cares about the dishes? You're not helping with the children. That's the thing
Yeah.
that is the most like just demanding and, you know, energy directing into it just like constantly. And I thought that was really interesting. You know, there was a one woman who said something like, you know, my husband thinks that you know, everything's great because he reads the children a story at night or something. She's like, um, you know, I wish that he would, you know, no, sorry, it was the other way around. She was like, he thinks that he's doing everything so great because he does the dishes when he comes home. And she's like,
Mhm.
I wish that he would just go and read them a story for them to go to sleep. Like
Yeah.
that, I want to go and do the dishes so that I can just like zone out. The dishes don't talk back to me, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And that yeah, I found that really interesting.
Yeah. I completely agree with that study. And I think that's yeah. So, and I think there's two things that came up when you're sharing that is one, for me, there was a question of why is it so draining to like literally. I mean, I'm watching this little person like. Why am I so tired? And I was thinking that there's something wrong with me. Like, is everybody like drained? Like, what the hell did I do today? I just took care of this child and I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
And Carrie Conti, who's, Carrie Conti, I think she was in your conference and she's now a friend of mine and just awesome mentor. And she was just saying that little people, their nervous systems are wired to you and they literally drain your energy. For the first couple of years, they're just tuned into you and they're draining your energy. And it's not in like a negative thing. It's just like they need you. They need your nervous system. They need your energy
Very
to kind
true.
of learn who they are. And that's why it's so draining and why it's so important that moms fill up their resources because they're being depleted, not in a negative way, just the reality of caring for a child and their child tuning into them. So I think that was reassuring for me. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. That's what's happening. That's why I feel so exhausted. What else? There's something else that you said. Oh, the mom. For me, there's this idea of how I think as women we just go about it and like, oh, this would be great if my husband or partner did this, like read the kids a story while I go do the dishes. So I noticed that resentments for me would come up when I was like wishing that he would do something like that, but not asking. So
Yeah.
my practice is like, you know what, babe, I will totally happily do these dishes. Can you go get him ready for bed? Like, and he's like, oh, sure, but he doesn't. He's not in the caretaking. He's not doing it every day. So he does think it's a perfect example because he does do the dishes. So he thinks he's totally helping out.
Yeah.
So I think it's huge as women and mothers that we get clear about what would really help us and then be willing to ask our partners, which for some reason, sometimes us women have a hard time with that. And that's where the resentment does fester and we think that they should just know that that's what they should do. And they don't. And they're more than happy to, if we say, hey, I need your help. Can you do this? Like every single time I do that to Brian, he's like, absolutely. Like I'll
Aw,
totally do that. So that was just one other thought that came up.
nice. If you could go back and give yourself some guidance before Emerson had actually arrived here, maybe when you were pregnant or maybe even before that, what do you think would be the main thing, or some of the main things that you would tell yourself in preparation for motherhood?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked this question a couple times, and I think, I mean, it's pretty much the same answer. That just, I think for me, there would be this message of, it is going to be way harder than you think it's going to be. Like, everything is going to be way harder. It's going to be intense. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be amazing and miraculous and life-changing. And also, like, you have more strength, more endurance, more patience, more love than you ever thought was possible. Like, the amount of stamina and endurance and love and patience that I have, it's mind-blowing to me. I'm like, wow, the love that you will have for your child is crazy, awesome, amazing, and I'm in awe of myself. I mean, not to brag or whatever, but many times I'm like, wow, I am powerful. Like, I think that would be the big thing of, like, saying, in the moments where I don't feel powerful, it's when I'm forgetting how powerful I am. Like, that how I am a goddess and an amazing mama goddess. And when I tap into that energy, things are easier. Like, I feel like I have that strength. So I think it would be, keep coming back to that amazing goddess power over and over, and don't let your mind doubt, and don't let fear get in the way, and just stay connected to your authentic power, your authentic self, and you're going to make it through, and it also gets easier. That's what also something I would say. Sweetheart, just breathe. It does get easier. It feels really intense at first, and then it does let up. They don't breastfeed for 24 hours forever, and you will get more sleep. And yeah, I think those would be my thoughts to myself.
Nice. There's one other thing that I want to cover that's kind of a tangent, but I feel like this is one of the things that I appreciate most about what you do and share. So I'd love to share about it, is you really disconnect from, like, email and the internet and stuff quite a lot. You know, you do kind of big stretches where you don't really go online. I loved it a few months ago. It was maybe like September or something of 2013. I sent you an email, and this autoresponder came back saying, "I'm not checking email until 2014. Bye," or something. And it was like, 4 months away or something, and I was just like laughing so much. I just thought it was genius, because we do live in this world where everything just seems to get faster and faster and more information, and it's just overload. And especially, if you have a young child in the mix of that, which is like really this kind of like primal being, suddenly, what becomes the reality of like Facebook or something, when you're dealing with that. So maybe you could kind of talk to us a bit about your choices with that and what you've kind of got out of it.
Yeah, I love that you shared that. Yes, this is a huge practice for me, and it's been a practice for me over the years, but especially having a child. I just got really, my whole thing has been in the last 18 months, and even while I was pregnant, actually, of like what's most important, and then being willing to strip everything else off.
Yeah.
Like, being willing to be bold, if you will, or doing things differently than people, like, oh, you have to be on your email. And it goes back to kind of the play thing and the mindset of like, do I need to be on email? And I have a very low tolerance for feeling really good. Like, I want to feel plugged into God, to source. I want to be connected to myself. And I've also done a lot of work that I know when I'm not. Like, I don't like the feeling of not being connected to myself. And for me, I found I love technology. We're on Skype because of technology. We have a internet business, I'm very interested and appreciative of technology. But for me, there's a finite amount of time that I've noticed of when I can be on and I still feel connected to myself and when I'm not. And it just feels like, there's tons of research of how there's addictive behaviors of like checking your email and you get a hit and you release feel-good hormones and things like that. And for me, those just started to feel, if they start to feel like false food, I guess, false hits.
Yeah.
That's for me, and to realize that I need to step back. So it's a constant dance for me. Like, sometimes I'm like really into my email and I love it. And then if I start feeling depleted or I'm just not loving it as much, I know that that's a time where I need to take a break from technology. And I do this, I turn my phone off. People are always like, you're really hard to get a hold of. And I personally, this isn't everyone, I have a lot of introvert tendencies. And in my time that I am not with Emerson or he's napping or something, those are times for me to connect to spirit. Those are times for me to fill up. Those are times for my introverted spaciousness self to feel alive. And a lot of times email doesn't do it for me. Like I just need a lot of that silence, that time. So an extrovert might not have those same needs, but for me, it's been really, really crucial. And I also noticed, I'm going off on tangents, lots of tangents, but I noticed when I have that space, because the thing with email and Facebook and all these, like, you're in other people's world, which is great, and it's great to connect, but I've found that the more that I just have to monitor it, because then I start thinking about what this person said, or this or that, and it's much harder for me to be present and connected to Emerson when I've spent like a lot of time on email, a lot of time on the internet, a lot of time on Facebook. Like I just feel like my brain and my energy is like trying to digest all of that, and I'm not as present as I would like to be. So I find it's really helpful, and I think in the modern world for so many of us moms, like it's so vital for us to take the breaks from email. And if people need to get a hold of you, they're going to get a hold of you. Like that's my philosophy, and maybe people will have opinions about me being a bad friend or a bad family member, but that's just how I roll.
Yeah, I love it. Something else that you guys shared with me years ago that has always stuck with me as well. I think Brian said it. He was saying, well, part of it was that he never touches emails more than once. If he opens an email, then he deals with it when he opens it. And then also he was saying, when you open an email or when you go to your email, there's going to be stuff that requires energy from you. That's what it is. Yeah. Like, even if it's just somebody saying like, hey, I love you or something, you're probably going to reply. So it's taking something from you. So you're never going to go to email and there's like nothing for you to do, probably, it's like very, very, very unlikely. So it's like just even by going and opening up your email, it's like you are kind of committing on some level to engaging your energy with something else, with somebody else. Totally. So yeah, that's always stuck with me. And what else was I thinking about when you were saying that? Yeah, I can't quite find it right now. But it was something about the presence with the child when you're thinking about all these other things. It's like, people talk about how important it is to turn your computer off like hours before you go to bed or something, it's for your mind to calm down. And yeah, I can just totally understand that what you were sharing about if you've been on Facebook or something and you kind of got all these things going in your head, you maybe aren't as present with the child. And and just how bizarre that is compared to, kind of like living in a tribe again, or, where you're around real people who are like part of your everyday life. Instead you kind of have these disembodied people like kind of floating around in your head who your child has no concept of. And that's it. That's what I was thinking about I watched a TEDx talk recently of a guy who was very much immersed in the kind of technology world, and he unplugged himself for a year. He did absolutely nothing online and no email or anything for a year. And it was really interesting to hear his reflections on that. And one of the main things was that the people around him, he just really wanted to connect to people genuinely. He wanted to like sit down and have a meal with them and a conversation with them and stuff, instead of, just constantly whatever, like being on Facebook or texting or something. And then when he came out of that and started to go back onto the computer and everything again, he said that he just got this total reality hit when his sister came to talk to him about something, and he was just like this, he was just in his computer, and he didn't even like look up at her, and she was like, "You're back," it was just, and he was like, "Oh man," and, it was just like the first days or something of going back online, and he was just zoom, back into this other reality.
Totally. Wow, that's amazing.
So something that that I've done since you started to do these things of taking the breaks from the internet and stuff, it inspired me to make some changes. And one of the main things that I did was like a huge sweep on my email of people's newsletters and stuff that I never open. That was huge. I mean, seriously, I probably got rid of maybe 80 things a day that would be coming in, that, because you just end up on people's lists. And I was just like, every time a new one would come in that I knew that I never paid attention to, I would actually open it and go down and unsubscribe. I did that over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it made a really big difference. And the other thing was, I kind of created like this internet diet for myself, where it's like, okay, I'm only going to deal with stuff online at this time of day, and this time of day. And I think I shared with you, I just felt so much more time and space in my reality. Yes. And actually, that's kind of slipped in the last couple of months. Like, I'm more back online again. So, and it comes to mind a lot, like, hey, I really enjoyed when I was doing it like that. Like, let's kind of go a bit more back in that direction. So I think it's something at least for people to think about, in this very kind of fast-paced, technology-driven world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's also cool too. And I like that and I'm always playing with this, and I think it's a constant dance of how we manage technology, because we're moving at such a fast rate that's, you're saying earlier, like, we are primal beings too. Like, there's a place for technology, but then if you're always going at that fast pace, you're missing the natural rhythms of your body and day and night, and just like the natural cycles that I think is rest and productivity. Like, there's, if you're always on your email, you're always like full speed ahead reacting. So I think it's so important to take those breaks. And one thing that's helped me too is, like, I think, as I was saying, the studies that have been done where you go to your email and you get a hit. Like, there's like something new that happens and it seems exciting. But for me, if I feel like I'm tired or whatever and I want to go check my email to see what happened, I'll oftentimes say, okay, do I have enough energy and resources and time to go into my email? And one of my big practices and one of our company's big practices is, when you go into your email, you go in like full in and you clean it out. Like, inbox to zero is one thing that we, practice. I'm not perfect at it all the time, but it's definitely one of my practices. So a lot of times I'm like, no, I kind of just want to go in and have a hit. Like, I don't want to actually go in and do all the things, like you said, required for me to clean my inbox. And if I don't have the energy, then I just don't go in, which is super helpful. Because then, like you said, you go in and you kind of read something, but you don't answer, and then you have a whole bunch of emails that you read, and then you have to read them again to answer a week or two later, and it's like, what? So it's just way more efficient to go in and read it once and reply once versus having to, then it sits in your email and you're like, oh, I need to write that person back, and it just leaks energy. And if anything, mothers need to not leak energy. We need to be like plugging things up and get things like smooth and flowing as easily and as gracefully as possible.
Oh, well, I think that was a perfect place to end there.
Great.
Are there any final thoughts though that you would like to share other than?
No, I mean, the one thing that comes to me is, and we've had real conversations with it, and I think as new moms, like just being real with yourself and real with other moms, because I think sometimes moms just don't talk about their challenges, or they think that other people aren't struggling, or, that
Right.
that person must be just, their baby's sleeping through the night and everything's perfect. But every mom has their own hero's journey, their own heroine's journey, and there's nothing wrong. There's challenges and there's problems and there's things that we need to figure out, but being willing to connect with other women and other mothers of your own hero's journey and have them support you and have them cheer you on and have them give you guidance. And it's been, I mean, I so appreciate you. You've been amazing for me being farther along the path, and the first 6 to 12 months, I was like emailing you. I'm like, what about this? What about this? And it's just so nice to be willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't really, can you help me with this? What was your experience? And just really asking for that support, I think, is vital for mother's happiness.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for touching on that because I feel like there can be so much kind of competitive energy around parenting as well, even though, like we just said, it's like such an individual journey and everyone's just doing their best. There can
Yeah.
be so much kind of this feeling of like pettiness and judgment and yeah, one of my favorite books on this whole subject, which I think you actually left here, was the Mama Zen book,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
she just lays it out of like how challenging it can be and how nobody really talks about that. And especially the kind of media world that we live in, where all the films and TV and everything, it's all like happy families, and you don't really necessarily understand what it's really like to be a parent. So
hmm
yeah, good stuff. Thank you.
yeah. I love that too. But there's also like I think it's Rumi, like if every, I'm gonna probably not say this quote right, but if every rub irritates you, you're like, how will you ever be polished?
Yeah.
And for me, that I had that feeling of if everything's perfect in parenthood, you're never going to grow. Like to have those irritations actually helps us polish our soul.
Right.
Like it helps us grow into the human being. And I love that about the Mama Zen and Karen Mazen Miller, who I interviewed, and I just love her authenticity and realness and willing to say, okay, I'm having these challenges, I'm feeling anger, I'm feeling whatever, and using it as fuel for your transformation. Like that for me has given motherhood a whole nother meaning of like really, okay, great, I'm feeling frustrated, impatient, irritated. What's that saying about me, and how do I use that to transform to be polished? To be even more polished and radiant and glowing and even more awesome.
Lovely. Well, so for anyone who hasn't checked out Alexandra's work before, or you'd love to go and see what she's up to, I guess the main place to find you would be in theos.com, right?
Yeah. And then we have, like, which we talked about, we were talking about social networking. We have a social networking website called Oasis. So, and theos.com/Alexandra is kind of my new social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Facebook. That's the only place that I am.
Nice.
And YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Simplifying. Do less. Be more. Enjoy the most.
And where can people go to sign up to your newsletter? Because I always really enjoy when your newsletter comes and you have little videos and stuff in there. Where would they find the box to sign up for that?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to rockyourgoddesslife.com, and then there at the bottom, you can sign up for my newsletter. It's there, yeah.
There you go.
And I'm, sporadic in my emails, my newsletters.
Yeah. Or I guess just subscribe on YouTube as well, right? That would work, and then they'll see when you do new videos. Yeah, so Alexandra J. Johnson on YouTube. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing. This was really fun, and I hope it's helpful for some other mamas out there. Yeah, just thank you for sharing your experience and
Yeah.
strength and wisdom.
Thank you. I always love talking to you. And yeah, I echo you. I hope that it's helpful for other mamas. And it's just great to have mama support. We need more goddess mama support out there. So hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, lots of love to all you new and old mamas and just mamas in general.
Yay. All right. Ciao.
Bye.